Okay.
Wendy, please introduce yourself to my class.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Gaither, and I am the owner of Reach Marketing and Design.
And how long have you owned your own company?
I started my business in October of 2014. So graphic designers are not allowed to be good at math, but I'm pretty sure that's 7 years.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Is that true? You're not supposed to be good at that math? Okay. I'm asking two future graphic designers. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you can actually be arrested for being good at math if you're a graphic designer. So.
Well, thank you for the warning. Anyway, so what is your actual training to be a graphic designer?
Okay, so I had a lot of hands-on training. I really had no formal training in graphic design other than trying things and getting yelled at by my boss because they didn't like it, or spending hours on the computer trying and tweaking things until about 10 or 15 years ago. I can't remember exactly when. I did take one college course in Illustrator, which is an Adobe program.
So you say the boss was yelling. Is that because your boss was your father?
Brother.
Brother. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were actually thrown into the job by accident because of an individual that was leaving for maternity, correct?
Yes.
Why did they go to you instead of hiring someone else?
Well, the timing of the pregnancy was perfect because it was summertime and I was in college. So they knew that I would just go away after the summer. So, and I think just the fact that I was kind of a creative person in general, I think was a good fit. I had no idea at the time that I was embarking on a whole career.
So they gave you, how many stores did Frank's Auto have?
We had 6 when I got started.
Okay. So you were responsible for doing what?
I wrote television and radio commercials. I worked with media buying. I was working with reimbursement from companies. You would get paid back for ads that you ran. I ran so like garages that did work on cars. I would work with them to advertise newspaper ads. We didn't have, that was back in the day before Facebook and all that. So we weren't doing social media ads at that point, but everything else.
So what year was that?
That I started?
Yeah.
1994.
Oh, you were the one sending the bad copy to WMBS. Now that makes sense.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't think I advertised on WMBS, Eric.
Actually,
sorry.
You did. You just don't remember it because I remember.
Okay.
Okay. Advertise on my program, but you did advertise it. Anyway, so with that being said, do you recommend anybody doing it the way you did, or do you think going through an education program is probably better?
Well, I often say that my parents made me go to college, and that's great for a lot of people. College is an awesome option for many people. I now recognize as an adult that I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. I was not college material, and I would have been someone who was better doing like a trade school, learning graphic design in a formal way. You can certainly learn a lot from YouTube and just online. LinkedIn, it has like classes that you can take. However, I learned very, very quickly from the college program that I took with Illustrator. And you know, like I feel like a formal education in graphic design would be a lot faster. There would probably be a whole lot less learning curve than what I did. I mean, you always learn more. They always add more to the programs. So, you know, it's a learning process all the time. But as far as, you know, where to place things so that they look good next to something else that you placed in an ad, or, you know, how you're using a shortcut, all of that is the type of thing that you would learn in school, as opposed to growing pains through a
Well,
yeah. But I mean, it's possible. You could certainly, you know, get started without a formal education. I did. So
okay, so you run your own business. Who takes care of the other stuff that is dealing with running a business, like your finances and the insurances and stuff like that? Do you do that yourself?
I do, yes. And since graphic designers aren't allowed to be good at math, I actually have an accountant that handles most of that part.
Okay.
But insurance wise, yes, you know, you just call and get insurance. There's always a cost to doing work for people if you want to make sure that you're doing it right. I mean, you have to make sure that you're grown up and you have, you know, you have insurance, and you don't just wing it and mess something up and then end up getting in trouble, you know. Or let's say you have a contract with someone and they don't pay you, you know, you have the ability to go after them if you have a formal business process.
So how many clients do you have?
I would say about 35.
Okay.
They're not always ordering things from me.
Okay, so what is your responsibility for those 35 individuals? So I need you to design something. What would you be designing?
So, okay, so you're asking me what kind of work I do for
Right.
any, okay. So I do logos. I would build my main money making source is building websites.
Okay.
But my favorite thing to do is building logos. So you know, and I can do flyers, ads. I handle one organization's social media. I actually hate doing that. It makes me want to stab my eyes out. But the rest of, but I get paid for it. So
Stab your eyes out if you're doing social media. But this is one of yours, correct?
Yes.
This is one of hers. How long did it take you to design this?
I mean, you know, probably about half an hour of tinkering around, playing with colors and styles and what have you.
So what was the motivation?
I was asked to make a retro logo for the county of Fayette. So
Okay.
And I was given some guidelines on kind of what the person pictured. Just happens to be Mr. Nuttall's wife, but you know, she gave me an idea of what she was picturing, and I gave her a couple ideas back visually, and that's what she wanted me to go with. So
I've worked with a couple graphic designers before. This was before I knew you. Designing logos for other places where I work. There's actually one that was designed. I don't have it here now. But have you ever worked with a client and they're giving you this idea and they're really happy, they're really proud of the idea, and you think about it and go, that's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. How do you deal with a person when you have to tell them their idea sucks?
Well, you don't say your idea sucks as much as you want to, but you do. I have found, and this is going to sound terrible, don't tell anybody I said this, but the more official you sound a lot of times, the more they believe you. So you know, a lot of times you can say the reasons why it's not going to work, like you know, if you put 15 things on your logo, it's going to be confusing. And you know, have you thought about the fact that like this isn't going to fit well on you know, in a letterhead? Or you can say you know, I really think that this is going to be hard to embroider if you ever want to embroider something, or, you know, how about we try this, and give them some other suggestions. I have, however, had to make things that I thought were horrible, and not morally. I don't do things that are against my morals, but I mean, as far as visually looking like horrible, but they liked it, you know.
That's interesting. So if you design something and you don't like it, but the client does, you don't have a problem with that? About the money.
No, because I don't know their business like they do. So sometimes, I mean, you know, I have on many occasions not used something on my website because I thought, you know, this doesn't stack up to what I can really do to show other people. But as far as what somebody wants, you know, this isn't like painting something where your signature is, you know, this is really, they have their business and they want you to represent it. And if that's what they really think, then, I mean, you know, it's what you do.
So how many times, and I've heard different on this, I'll ask you, a company's been in business for 30 years. They've started out with one logo. Should they change the logo or should they modify it every so often?
30 years ago, the concepts of logos were just more restricted. You know, you would not have had the same, you wouldn't have the same feel now, regardless of what you had. There are businesses like, let's say you're an attorney and you want to look very stuffy. You know, your logo is probably going to be pretty okay to just modify it a little bit. I would say if you're doing it along the way, it's a good idea to modify your logo because people recognize the McDonald's logo, and if they wanted to tweak it completely, it would be confusing. If they did little tweaks along the way, that would be much more, you know, recognizable along the way. But if you've kept the same logo for 30 years, it's probably time to do a whole new revamp and make a big launch and a splash about it. And, you know, here, hey, here's our new look.
So with that being said, we have brands like Coca-Cola that's not changed their logo in 100 years.
Right. And neither really, I mean, McDonald's hasn't changed it a whole lot. And so if you're that level they know what they're doing better than I do.
Well, the reason I ask is McDonald's, I've seen different modifications in different locations. I've seen an airbrushed one, I've seen more of a modern one, but they still, like you said, go back to the original one. Coke, the only thing that changes with them is their tagline. The logo's the same, the tagline is different.
Right.
Is this, this goes back to the embroidery and going back to what you design graphically. If you have a design and you have the logo, it has one font in it, and then you use another font underneath it for the tagline. Is there an amount of fonts that you should be using in a graphic? Should it be one? Should it be two? Should it be three? I mean, or should you just stick with one?
Oh, 400 fonts is a great idea in one. No, I'm teasing. No, you know, people getting started often get pretty font excited. You know, they want to, oh, look at this one and look at this one. 2 or 3 fonts are usually you know, if you're doing a logo, I have done a logo with 3 fonts in it. You know, maybe the logo has one letter that's in one font and then the rest of the letters are in another font, and then the tagline is a 3rd font. But other than that, I would never go more than 3. Okay. Usually 2.
Because I was told that once. And
I'm sorry?
I said I was told that once, and I've always stuck with that.
Yeah.
When I look at it, because again, it gets too busy if you see more than.
And that's the same with an ad or a flyer or anything. You know, you want it to not look like a big old explosion of font.
So you went back and you said you did layout for the newspaper ads for your father's business.
Yeah.
We don't do newspaper ads anymore.
No.
Pretty much. So that skill you learned there, are you able to translate that to the internet?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Most of the value and what I learned in doing that had a lot more to do with how to space things rather than, how to save them and send them to someone. So, you know, one of the most, and one of my biggest skills is giving unsolicited advice. So I'll say this now, one of the most important things that you ever want to do if you're going to go into business is to listen to what other people, what your customer wants, not to just decide what they want. And, listening is a really important skill in business. And so, if the person wants to fit 6 things in a box, you have to figure out how to do it. And that was something that in a newspaper really it was hard to do because you couldn't adjust it for mobile or, so I think the skill of learning how to place things and size them is really what I took from that.
So how did you learn to deal with people like that? That you had to basically tell them yes, no, or just you go with the flow. How were you able to adjust to that?
You mean like customers or?
Yes, customers.
I don't know. I mean, I worked at a print shop for a while between Frank's Auto and having my own business, and all the various jobs that you have to do. You listen, you kind of encourage them along the way, what you think you can do, what you don't think you can do. I have a little confession to make. I can't draw at all. I can't draw a line. So everything I do is digital. And so when they tell me, I really want to have a cat on top of a basketball who is going in on a dunk, I'm going to have to tell them, I'm sorry, I'm probably not your person because I can't draw.
Okay.
Okay.
So Allison, Gaither, any questions? Because again, she's been doing it for quite a few years. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak to Christy Casimir.
Mm-hmm.
She brought your name up in conversation, that you guys collaborate on occasion.
Yes.
And she told me that she likes doing all the written word. She likes to do the planning, the organization, but then you take it and you run with it when you do the website, that you do all the technical stuff.
Right. So I'm kind of awkward and say a bunch of stupid stuff to people. So she's really smooth about communication, and she handles all of the communicating with the client and also editing and making sure something doesn't look too funky. It's always good to have another set of eyes regardless, but then I'll be the person who actually builds the site itself and does like she said, the technical part. It's really a lot of fun. And one nice thing about it is the collaboration between businesses that are similar but not competing.
Okay. So how many different sites have you collaborated with Christy? Do you know offhand?
Probably about 6 or 7.
Okay.
So far.
Has there been a time where Christy comes up with an idea that you can't stand? You tell her?
I mean, maybe it's not can't stand, but yeah, that's not going to work. Great in theory, not really practical in real life. So I would just tell her that, we're friends and, that sounds so awesome, but it's just not going to work in real life.
So has there ever been something that you've designed that you've been working on, but yet you just can't get it the way you want it?
Yes.
What do you do?
Cry. I mean, I have had times where I've had to go to someone and say, I've tried this 16 different ways and I just don't think I'm your person. And, when you're hungry and you need work and you need business, it's really hard to admit that. When I first got started, I actually hired some people through Fiverr to solve some of my problems for me because I didn't want to admit that I couldn't do it. And that got to be a little expensive, but at the same time, it was helpful. But yeah, I mean, it's, you just have to say, I I can't do that. I'm sorry. I would like to. I can help you find someone who can, but
Okay.
I'm probably not the person.
So have you done one, you're looking at it, you like everything, but there's just something that's not right. And you
Hmm.
keep looking at it and it keeps nagging at you and doing, what do you do in that situation?
It's always good to have someone else come in and look at what you're doing. One other thing that I did in my job at Frank's Auto was I was a manager of graphic designers. So I stopped being the graphic designer and I ended up being the marketing director for most of my job, although I could do the graphic design. One thing that I noticed was graphic designers are typically super sensitive, very, very sensitive about getting feedback. And you just, you can't do that. And it's hard. It's really hard because you put your heart into something and you're really excited about it. And, you know, someone comes along and says, move that thing, or, oh, I don't like that color. And you take it personally. But it's really hard to get to a place where you're saying, okay, they're not talking to me. They just want this to be look different. And so when someone else looks at your job, if you ask someone to come in and say, hey, look at this, what's weird about it? I like it, but there's something off. And they say, oh, you know what, that price sign is way too big compared to everything else. And you go, oh, okay, I should make that smaller. And then you move on. But I think that getting another set of eyes is really the best solution to that.
So in Fayette County, is there a need for more graphic designers?
Um, I mean, if everybody in that room right there decided that they wanted to be a graphic designer tomorrow, that would probably be like, there would be a lot of fighting over the jobs that aren't there.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, yes and no. People don't know that they have problems sometimes. They don't know that they really want to, they've been putting off doing something because they don't know how. And so, you know, if you're able to get into their business and say, hey, I have my own business, I can solve this little piece for you, but you don't have to hire me full time. Or even like larger businesses who do want to hire somebody full time, they are out there. So I would say yes, but not like, it's not like how we need fast food workers right now, you know.
Do you think the pandemic changed the job opportunities for graphic designers?
Yes. I think a lot more people learned how to solve some of their own problems.
Okay.
So that, you know, they go on canva.com and make their own flyers, or they, you know, maybe they go on Wix and make their own website or whatever because they were home. But overall, I think too, people have learned more of what they do and don't want to do with their time. And the people who in the pandemic have learned, like, I really don't give a crap about building a flyer. Those are the people that call me and say, hey, you know, can you make a flyer for me? So I don't know if that answered that question or
Well,
not, but
it does, because you mentioned a couple websites where people want to go to, they can do it themselves.
mhm.
Should everybody do it themselves?
I like it when people do it themselves in a way because that's helps them realize that they're not very good at it. Um, so sometimes they should, if they're okay with what they're doing, then sure. But and some people have a knack for spacing things and making them look well. And but uh, yeah, I would say most of them shouldn't.
Okay. Because, and I've showed the kids the two that I've recently done. And I like them. That's all that matters, right? But
Exactly.
but I was, and again, I do the same thing. I get another set of eyes, and the person I get is the person you get occasionally, because she can see it.
Right.
She's individuals that can see it. And for the most part, she's agreed with me.
Yeah,
But I look at some of these that I know people have done, and you can tell they're amateurish.
sure.
Would you go to a business if they're just fresh out of the chute, they've never done it before, they just started, they created their own thing? That logo is a first impression, correct?
Right.
Would you go to them if you could tell that it really wasn't good?
You mean, would I verbally say that to them?
Well, no, would you actually frequent the business if it?
I would, but I would kind of think to myself, how cute, like, oh, how cute. They made that awful logo. But it wouldn't keep me from going to them, but I mean, I guess it depends on what they sell. If they sell logos, then probably I wouldn't go to them. But I as far as if they sold clothes or if they sold office supplies or something, I would go there still.
The reason I ask, and you guys may have seen this before, there's a few local construction companies that have done their own logos where they painted it on their trucks.
Yeah.
Looks like my 5-year-old nephew, great nephew, did it.
Right.
The one I'm thinking of is Cuzzy, the house doctor. I want to know how he got the degree. I really do. But he paints it. The letters don't look right and everything else. Would you trust him to put a roof on your house? Or would you
Wow.
give you the initiative even to make the phone call?
Right. That's a really good point. In the case of service type jobs, I think that what you put out there is a reflection of what your abilities are. And so just like I was saying earlier about how when you're talking to a client and you want to tell them, like, I really don't like what you're doing, but you kind of say it in a way that has some like where you sound like you know what you're talking about. That's kind of the same with logos. And that it was somebody just getting started in a business in town that was selling clothes, like I said, maybe I would go there just to check it out. But as far as construction, or if you can't take $30 or $40 and get online and get somebody to build you a logo or something, magnet to put on the side of your car, you got to put a good face forward. So yeah, I agree with you. That would be a little scary.
Because again, I see these and I wonder, is there a logo or something that you've done you've been very proud of and you actually use that as an example of your work?
Yes, I mean, I have quite a few that I'm pretty psyched about. I have a construction company that I did that I really liked, and
Not Cuzzy the house doctor, is it?
no,
Is
no, it was Glotfeldy Woodworks, if you want to look them up. I also built their website. But I mean, I should mention, I guess, that I made the logo for Fayette County. So if you see the new logo on the buses, on the FACT buses, or really anywhere, if you see the new Fayette County logo, that was me working with Mr. Nuttall's wife. What she told me what she wanted, and I made it.
I'll make my wife sound like this individual that tells everybody what to do. I mean, really.
No, she's awesome. She's actually awesome. But I mean, in some ways, she really, we worked together, and she told me the elements that she wanted to have in it, and then I was able to put those together, and she was giving me direction, but not in a bossy way. She's wonderful.
New logo, and unfortunately, I don't have a copy of it here, is very clean, very recognizable compared to the last logo, which I don't even remember what it was.
I don't need
So are we going towards that direction of very clean lines? Is that the trend happening in logo making right now, that we want it very, very professional looking?
Yes, I think people tended for a while there to want to just make a big splash and do a lot of detail and layers and color borders and whatever around their letters, and granted, that Fayette County on the t-shirt that you held up has a lot of different borders and what have you, but as far as embroidery or putting it on things, people often think about, you know, how many ink colors I'm going to have to pay for. And so a lot of times, yes, the clean, easy to read, easy to recognize, that's what people really use. And unfortunately, when you start off in graphic design, you want to show everybody how cool the things are that you can make. And that often ends up being, you know, a bigger splash than people really want to make.
Is there a logo that you are embarrassed to admit that you've done? Or work that you're embarrassed to admit that you've done?
Yes. I mean, there's some advertising in my past in auto parts that I'm sure you can imagine weren't necessarily consistent with what I would have wanted to do. But as far as design is concerned, yeah, sure. I mean, sometimes people will tell you, like, I just want you to take 10 minutes and do something. Well, maybe not 10 minutes, but an hour. And they think it's great. But I mean, I can't think of anything in particular that I would say, oh man, I can't believe I did that.
Okay. The other question I have, and I told these guys this too, is that you always have people come up to you going, I need this logo. It's nothing really big, but can you do it for me for free? You get that?
My favorite sentence, and if you're going to be a graphic designer, you will hear this. So hear it from me now. Can you do this for me really quick? And that means I don't want to pay much.
Right.
If I can give you advice, don't ever do work for anybody who's an online blogger because they don't want to pay you. But everybody, people will come up to you. Can you do this really quick? Or how much would it cost? And that's a reasonable question. But when they're like a good friend and they are doing something that is just getting started and they want you to make a price sheet or something, it's going to take you 3 or 4 hours to make it. But they think it's really quick, it's frustrating. And it's hard to tell them, that you're going to charge them. I have done work for free for people, but it's, you don't pay your bills that way. So it's hard to.
I will do a formal disclosure. I have asked Wendy to do stuff for me for free. Okay. And she has volunteered to do it. However, the person that's sitting behind that wall won't let me do it and won't let Wendy do it because your time is very valuable and you shouldn't be doing stuff for free like that. And I've met a lot of people now working those where at one time I thought it was very easy to do. And now I see what you do and I'm going, you should never do anything for free. So.
Right. Yeah. All right, guys, thanks.
So again, thank you very much. See, it wasn't that hard.
No, that was easy. Bye, guys.
Let me stop this recording.